All right, well, if it's okay with the audience, we're going to go ahead and get started, because we're just a little bit after the hour. So, first off, to those of you that came, thank you so much. Let's see, I got to use my clicker here. So, to just talk a little bit about why we're here tonight. In January of 2022, the Board of Trustees for Northeast developed a balanced district scorecard. And this was something that I wanted to get done prior to COVID hitting, and unfortunately that just derailed a lot. But we were able to find some points of convergence and get together, and the board adopted that scorecard then later in September of 2022. If you've not seen it, I encourage you and all people to keep coming back to it. It's at that link there on the bottom of the screen, because it is a living, breathing document and it's constantly evolving as we go through. So tonight we are here because of this piece in 3.3. So the way to remember the balanced district scorecard is just simply the 4 S's: students, staff, stakeholders, and stewardship. This is really part of the stakeholders component, where it says facilitate community meetings to discuss high-level topics and then have a question and answer session. So I hope that you picked up a form for the questions that you can write down as we go through. We will have some time at the end to answer some questions about school accountability. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. In a minute, I'm going to introduce Brandy Merriman. I've been around through a lot of iterations of accountability, and this is my 29th year. I've never seen anything like this in the state of education, of where we're at. But what I love about education, and educators in particular, is no matter what adversity we face, we always find a way through it. And I believe in the end, we will find a way to get through this, and our teachers and our students will be better off. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brandy Merriman, our Director of Performance and Accountability. Her title changed, so I got to remember it. So Brandy, if you'll go ahead and take us away.
Thank you, Dr. Miner. So I'm here to talk about the STAR redesign, the STAR redesign and accountability refresh. So the it fell. Okay, I can do that. So the accountability system has changed over the years, as Dr. Micah mentioned. It started out in 1980 as tabs, and then it went to teams, and then it went to TOPS, and then it went to TACs. And every time they changed the test or changed the accountability system, they kind of paused. Especially in 2003, when they changed TACs, I could find that in the TEA website. They did pause accountability at that point. Then they changed to STAR, and they paused once again. So what I mean by pause is if they're changing the test and they're changing the accountability system, they're not going to hold us accountable. They're going to give us a break. In 2018, they changed just the accountability system, so we didn't get a break. And then this last year, in 2023, they changed the test a little bit, they changed the accountability system a lot, but we didn't get a pause. So I think the reason that's important is because even Commissioner Rath said a significant rewrite STAR test is underway, almost so that it might even be worth calling it by a new name. And if they had called it by a new name, we wouldn't be in this situation. Because this is the first year that they've ever changed the accountability system and the testing program simultaneously. So we're going to focus on those changes while we're here today. First off, this is the timeline. This represents what we've been going through just since May. Okay? You notice at the very end is our testing. This is today's date, this is the test, this is today. This is when the STAR test was, at the end of April, beginning of May. We got a little bit of results and a little bit of guidance at the end of May, and there were like these random buckets. They said the kid is either likely to pass, likely not to pass, or somewhere in the zone of uncertainty. Then they gave us some STAR performance levels for EOCs, and it wasn't until August that they gave us the actual scores for all of our students, the performance levels for our students, in August 8th and 11th. And then we started thinking about, well, how are they going to give us scores? How are they going to grade us? Well, they had a timeline, they had a rough draft of what we were going to do back in March. They said they would give us an accountability manual or the draft of accountability manual before we ever took the test. We didn't see it then. Then they said they're going to give summer guidance to parents about the new accountability system. I don't know if it came out or not, but I figured that's a lot of good that does to parents after the test is over. And then we had the final accountability manual. It's supposed to come out in August. And then the AQF ratings were supposed to be released at the end of September. Well, they moved the accountability manual to beginning of September. Then they said, you know what? Whoa, hold up. The scores aren't what we expected them to be. And I'll tell you why in just a little bit. But they moved the accountability manual again. Then they moved the ratings till the end of October, beginning of November. Thank you, whoever did that. And then they moved the accountability manual again. And we got it. We got it at the end of October. You know what? Let's hold off on this. We'll come back to this later on. Because these are all the changes that we've had to, we're going home, that we've had to address so far this year. But the changes were made to the STAR and the accountability system. Let's start with the STAR, okay? The STAR was redesigned. We now call it STAR 2.0. And the STAR redesign was based on improving alignment to the classroom experience. This is from TPA. Improving alignment to the classroom experience. Building students' knowledge and vocabulary in all subjects is what we do as teachers. We do that all the time. We build their knowledge. And we do that by making connections to other things they've already learned. Well, in the STAR test, the redesign will have the reading and writing passages relate to past things that they already know. For example, instead of giving them a passage about a chimney, okay, they will, and the kids don't even know what a chimney is, or talk about a chimney sweep, they might then give them a passage about something they've learned before. For example, this is what's called a cola cactus, and they have a passage that they've been learning, that they gave in 5th grade reading, okay, 5th grade reading. In fourth grade, they learned about this passage by, sorry about this, I've lost my spot. In 4th grade, they learned, students have learned about how these structures and functions relate, about the cactus and how it could conserve water within its leaves. And in 5th grade, they learned about how other animals and stuff use those waters in order to grow. So the passage will relate to things they've already learned in class. And that was part of the change. And we really think this is a good thing. Okay? Instead of asking them about things they don't know. Another area for change is about writing. Students will write in all classes. They do right now. They write in all classes, all subjects, but they only wrote in 4th and 7th grade when it came to the STARS test before. So the new version, for example, they might ask them, in the old version of STAR, to ask them, what's the favorite place you traveled to? What did it look like? What's your favorite park? And if the kid hasn't traveled, they can't answer that question. So instead, they'll give them a passage that's about, or maybe even 2 passages that are about different places to visit. And they'll ask them to write about, what place would you think would be the best place to go and why? Use evidence from the passage. Okay? So they will use evidence from passages to write. Here's another example. And this one's about an invention. It says Thomas Edison is famous for inventing the light bulb. Think about inventions that you believe are useful, write about why you think they're useful, and they basically have to cut out of thin air with this passage, with the reasoning. Another way would be to give them a passage to read and then ask them to basically tell them about the passage, plain evidence, explain why the kids did this or that. Okay, this is an example. It says, explain how Herbie's behavior changed and how this is developed by the playground. So this is another example of how they're going to use a passage to write. So they're very similar prompts that they're asking them to do, but they're more about writing about what they've read and providing evidence. This question can be worth anywhere from 2 to 10 points. 2 points for science and social studies, 10 points for the essay that they have to write in all grade levels, not just 4th and 7th. Another example is, another thing they're doing is providing various open-ended formats for students to respond. In other words, they're going to add non-multiple choice questions, more like the questions teachers ask in class. I'm going to show you several examples with this. Here's one. This is a typical graph. This is a third grade student, and they're giving them a graph, and they're asking them, choose which table it goes with. It's simple to us to think about a third grade, okay? But now, instead of asking it in this way, where they can basically do it by process elimination, they're going to ask them a question that's more like this, and they're going to say, create a graph. So they actually have to click and create a graph that represents this information. So kind of the other way around, but it's the same concept. This would be worth anywhere from 1 to 2 points. Here's another question. It talks about Juan and his suitcase. He's going traveling with his friends, and it asks, where's Juan's, if they put them in order from greatest to least, where's Juan's suitcase going to be? So they have to figure out where's Juan, they have to put in order, they have to do that kind of thing. Now they're going to be asking them more like, this is the exact same question, but instead of asking where's Juan, it says, put these things in order. Okay, it takes those weights to the suitcase, it tells them from greatest to least, and they have to physically move those from one place to another. That's a new item type, and again, it's from 1 to 2 points. This is a science question for 5th grade. It asks them which light bulbs would be turned on by the switch. And you can see that it asks them not just one bulb, not just one light, but this, and this. This, but not this. You know those kind of questions that we used to hate about, it's A, B, C, but not D. Okay? This is now it is more of a click on the image thing. So they have to click on the image to determine where the lights will come on. Again, 1 to 2 points. This actual question is from U.S. history, or sorry, 8th grade history. It basically is talking about what caused the immigrants to come to America. And this is a question I found on another STAR test. And it's kind of very similar because it's asking about a different group of immigrants. This same 2 questions are now provided in this table. It's called a matched table grid. And it's asking them to determine which of these reasons for immigration went for Chinese or the Irish, or which went to both. So you can see all of these questions are very similar, but it's more about how the kid can answer the question more fully. They can answer a question covering 3 different keys with this kind versus the ones on the left. And again, it's worth 1 to 2 points. So we've had many questions that are worth multiple points versus the multiple choice questions that we've had so far. This is similar to a pickleball game. I've never played pickleball, but if you can imagine a pickleball court and a regular tennis court, and the pickleball team says, you know what, you got to play on the regular tennis courts, and you got to play against the pro. Who do we expect to win? The pro, right? The pro's going to win. It's a very similar game, but the tools are different, the rules are different, the court sizes are different. Now, does that mean that they've lost their pickleball skills? No. Right? They can still perform on it, but they need to practice that. So when we come into this new version of the test, it's kind of the same thing. We wouldn't expect the pickleball team to knock it out of the park, right? Just like we wouldn't expect them to win the first tennis game, we don't expect every school to get their score exactly the same this year. Because remember, they took their test last year and we're getting the scores this year. Also, getting a lower score on the tennis match doesn't mean they've lost any skills, but it does mean that they need to practice. So we believe our schools will continue building their skills, and our students will react, but we may not get the same results this year. What big changes can we see in accountability in the 2023 school year? Well, first off, the big picture is pretty much the same. The big picture is they're going to have STAR tests, all the different versions we've had so far. They have the TELTAS test, graduation, and CCMR, or college career military readiness. We're going to go back over those in just a little bit. Notice that the graduation and the CCMR are for the class of 2022. So that is the class that graduated before they ever changed the system. They're gone. All of these contribute in some way or another to our score. But like I said, part of those kids are gone. Sorry about the contrast on those previous slides. This is like playing a football game. You have Team A, they scored 3 field goals, and they made 9 points. Team B, they scored 3 touchdowns, and they made 21 points. They got extra points. Okay. A similar game, but who's winning? Team B. Okay, they won, we know the rules, we know what's happening. They chose to do those field goals. But what if after the game, the referees decide that, you know what, the field goals are going to be worth more than the touchdown. After the game, they decide, you know what, those are going to be worth 8 points apiece. And then the touchdowns are only worth 7. So now who won? The similar game. The game is, matter of fact, it's the same game, but the rules are different. So again, because it may take us a while to react to these things, Team B would have focused on field goals if they had known the rules. Team B would have maybe had their offensive line work on more different goals. In other words, they wouldn't have like crossed the line. What was your field goals if they had known the rules? We can expect our schools to be putting in a plan to adjust to these accountability rules so that they can perform better next year. Accountability and student achievement. TEA says that the redesign does not mean the test will be any harder. We agreed with them, we listened to them, but then they gave us the results. They gave us the raw results. First off, notice that the STAR test has 3 performance levels. You can get approaches or higher. You can get meets or higher. Meets is where you want kids to be. Or you can get masters or higher. So each performance level is a measure, a stick that the kids are trying to pass, a goal they're trying to meet. So this is what the results were this year. Last year they had to make a 50%. They get 50% of their items correct to get approaches. This past year, they had to get 35% correct to get approaches. The score went down 15%. Their standard went down 15%. To me, is that not harder? If they had to lower the standards so much to get the passing scores up to where they needed to be? As a matter of fact, every approaching standard went down. Every meet standard went down. So I would say that the test might have been harder than they expected it to be because they had to make such adjustments to the passing standard. College Career Military Readiness, CCMR. This is what our seniors are ultimately trying to be. They're trying to be college career or military ready. And they work 4 years to get that. Okay, and like I said earlier, CCMR that counts for this year is 2022 seniors. So those kids are gone. But they decided to change the rules. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. So, So it is possible for our campus to go up from 2022 to 2023. Their performance from one year to the next for CCMR could improve, but their score could go down because of the changes they've made. So please understand that. So for example, this is the scale. This is the cutoffs for each campus. All right, and the campus, you can see how A is so big right now. Okay, F is a little smaller, D and B are kind of hard to do. Okay, this represents one of our high schools, that yellow dot that popped up there. This represents another one of our high schools. And this was in 2018, our class of 2017. And over time, they performed a little better. You can see that it was a drop between 2019 and 2020, and that's because of the pandemic. Okay? But you can see that those campuses worked really hard to get in the A range. Then they decided this year to change the rules. And this is where the cutoffs are now. And you can see that it's a lot easier to get an F than it is to get an A. Okay? They've moved our standards. And even though these campuses improved from the year before, they're both pretty much in the C range. And so for that reason, we can expect our scores to go down, especially for high school. growth, it had the biggest changes and the biggest effect, especially on elementary and middle schools. This is a test from 3rd grade in 2021. Okay, each little box represents a point for an item. Okay? And this is a test from 2022. Each little box represents an item. The kid had to have a scale score that went up 82 points. That's all they had to do. So no matter what they were over here, and they went up 89 points, that kid grew. Because from 1 year to the next, their scale score went up at least 82 points. Now this is between 3rd grade reading and 4th grade reading. Every test had its own target, okay? This kid right here, who went from 1468 to a 1550 that had 82 points, they grew. That's the old system. The new system they made a transition table, is what they call it. They divided these buckets up into 6 buckets. Instead of being approaches, meets, and masters, and did not meet, they now have low approaches, high approaches, low did not meet, and high did not meet. And the goal is now for the kid to get from one bucket to the next. They have to jump from one bucket to the next to earn growth. So if they go from here to here, they get growth. But imagine the kid is a lot further down in the did not meet bucket. They have a lot further to jump. If they go from here to here, they get growth. They earn the points for their score. If they go from there to there, they grew. If they're at meets, they just have to stay meets. Now that's one concession that the TEA gave us that we agree with. This meets is where we want to be. If they're at masters, they just got to stay at masters. That's the transition table that got us. We understood it. We were ready to go. But then we had the test. And you can see because of all those 1 and 2 point questions, the test is much longer than it used to be. So a kid who's masters got to stay masters, but it's like a kid win the sprint race and now you expect them to win a marathon. Okay? They don't have the training yet to develop that stamina. Okay? If the kid went from there to there, did they grow? If they go from there to there, did they grow? Well, based on this bucket, they would get points for growth because of where they divided the line. But that line is random. Okay? So when they go from low did not meet to high did not meet, they earn growth. So they will get a full point. If they go from meets to meets, we like that, they do get a point. If they go from masters down to meets, they don't get anything. I think it's sad, but that's the truth. And one more example, what about this kid who's in the low and it did not meet? They work their tail off and they get almost to did not meet high. They get nothing. So that's some changes that we have to develop in our teachers and our students about having a goal and working your way towards that goal every day. And it may not be that you get all the way to there, but you work your way up and you set that goal moving forward. So that's something we hope our parents and our students and our teachers all understand about setting a goal and moving forward. The last domain is closing the gaps. This is the domain 3. It's been around for years. It's the federal government's idea of monitoring our student groups. It's about making substantial changes to the accountability system. It's important part of the accountability system to identify disparities among students. As educational leaders, we must provide resources and supports for students who are underperforming their peers. We get that, and that's what we've been doing all along. But for the accountability system, they've made some major changes in this domain. Prior to this year, a student was identified as a student group called sub-pops, and these sub-pops were given a target, and they would receive a yes or no regarding whether they met the performance targets established by the state. Think of it as like a bar, and if the student crosses that bar, they get a yes. Student group. If the student doesn't pass that bar, they get a no. It's either 0 or 1 point. Now the state created a 0 to 4 scale. And they have interim targets along the way and a long-term target. The long-term target is for the year 2038. I'm hoping I'll be out of this job by then, but 2038. All right? And so if the kid, depending on where they scored, they could get either 0 to 4 points. that student group. So each student group would set a target, and they get a target, and they have to meet those targets, either the interim target, the long-term target, or somewhere in between. Another thing that's changing is the minimum size. Up till now, they've had a minimum size of 25. In other words, if a campus only had less than 25 students, that student group didn't count in the accountability system. They still count for federal accountability, but not for the accountability system. But so now they raised that, they lowered that to 10. The reason for these changes from TEA makes sense. They're wanting to evaluate as many students as possible. We get that. They're closing the gaps. They're going to close the achievement gap. However, this represents our first whole system. So all students are going to count for our accountability. We get that. In the race ethnicity groups, they're only going to focus on our lowest two. So remember, they're using less than 10. So an elementary campus could have just 10 kids, and they're only going to focus on the lowest two. And that's what's going to count for them. And then the other populations, such as special ed, EB, economically disadvantaged, highly mobile, that's going to be all combined into one student group. And that's what they're going to use to give us a grade. That grade for this domain counts for 30% of our entire score. So with these reasons and many more, that might be why our scores are not where we want them to be. The timeline continues. I'm going really fast, sir. Sorry. The timeline continues, okay? So we talked about the accountability system, that they took the test back in April, they gave us scores at the beginning of August. They said they would have a final accountability manual in August. The AP ratings will be developed and given to us at the end of September. Okay, maybe they moved the draft a little bit more, okay? Then they gave us the delay, and they moved everything to between October and November. Okay? Meanwhile, in August 24th, the TEA was given a, what's it called, they filed a lawsuit, correct? The lawsuit was filed by independent school districts, not us, but it was filed in a lawsuit. In October 26th, the judge issued a temporary injunction against giving us A through F ratings. Of course, they appealed it the very next day. February 2012 is when the schedule for the trial is done, is dated. February 12th, scheduled trial date. And so we do not know when we're going to get our accountability ratings. It'll be sometime in, I don't know. I really don't know. Meanwhile, we are doing our best. We're continuing our work. Especially at our district, we know that we have a plan. Every campus and our district has a plan, including that we have other points of data. We don't need the results from STAR. We have other historical points of data to get to know our students. Campus leaders have also used the data points to develop a campus improvement plan that addresses all student groups. And we use a balanced assessment system in our district. That includes diagnostic assessments, including measures of academic progress, our MAP test that you may be familiar with, for growth, for reading, language arts, math, and science. We also have formative assessments that the teachers give independently to kind of make changes in their instruction. And we have unit assessments to inform instructional plans, fill in the gaps, provide extensions, and monitor growth. All of this is before the one assessment test, STAR test we take at the end of the year. Just so you know, we appreciate the continued support as leaders and students and teachers that you continue to support us. Your patience as we await score from TEA because we don't know when they're coming. And you can even check your child's score in the portal in Skyward. We have a help desk number at the bottom of the screen. and you can check how they've done with your state assessments. Also, you can check the link, and then this is what you might see as your state assessment results. And let's see. Questions? All right, questions? How's it?
So if you were coming in, I stated earlier, there were some cards that you could pick up to write your questions down on. Before this meeting, we actually had someone submit a question on the campus. And I'm going to have Mr. Jarrett answer it, but if you have any questions, we have some staff that will walk around. You'll just hold it up, we'll pick it up. Come on up here because this is being recorded. We want to be able to read it out loud and then answer that question.
So I have a mic?
Yep.
All right, so good evening. So the first question that came in, considering the changes in the STAR and TEA specifications, what support does the state, city, and district provide to schools to complete these new requirements? So I'll try to break this down into different parts. So the state initially started with doing a series where they went around the state giving updates and information about the redesign, okay? So that was their effort to help us and support us by helping us understand the new accountability system. What they didn't do is really give us the information in a timely manner, and so then we would thrust it into this place of trying to make decisions blindly on what we're going to do to service kids, okay? And so then the city really doesn't have a lot to say, but our Region Service Center tries their best to keep us up to date and informed on changes that come from the state, but nothing directly. So in essence, we were then charged with the responsibility to come up with a plan of action to prepare kids for tests that we didn't get to see. We didn't have test items to evaluate, but we still had to prepare kids for an assessment that they would show accountability to say whether we're growing kids on a yearly basis. And so we took that information and we took it as a challenge. We did take in some interim assessment to give us a little bit of insight, but it really didn't give us a whole lot of information that we needed to say whether we're moving in the right direction. So we used the MAP testing, which you guys are probably familiar with kiddos taking that. And the reason we adopted that is that we also have a mobility rate in our system. And what a mobility rate means is we have kids that come and go all year long. We don't know who's going to walk in the door in August compared to who left in May. So beginning of year really gives us that initial pulse on where our kids are academically. That tells all the teachers, here are your student body for this calendar year. Okay? So based on that performance, our teachers are able to put things in place to support kids and help them grow all the way until December of this year, which we gave middle of year math test. The reason that was in place is that the kids we have, did we grow them by December? If the students didn't grow, our response as a staff is the question is, what do we do? Then we come up with an individual plan to help those kids reach the next level. That makes some sense. So our teachers are looking at that data, making informed decisions, and then recreating instructional practices to meet kids exactly where they're at. Our curriculum coach rewrote the curriculum to try to align to the standards. The test is all written based on the teams, and so that's not the secret. The difference is what Brandy talked about, is the stamina of the test as well, and the framing and the format. The other thing that I would be remiss if I didn't mention, the test is no longer paper pencil. Now, you went from years and years and years with a paper in your hand, a pencil in your hand, and you took a test. Now you're having to do it on a computer. So quickly, we had to A, find the technology, B, make sure the technology is working, C, try to get kids equipped with the skills to be able to apply the technology in a high stressful, high test place during that time. And so all these things had to be done to prepare kids for a test that for this past year that we still don't have the results for, by the way. So not having the results, here we are in December, we still don't know exactly where we stand, but we're having to still prepare them for an assessment that's going to be coming this spring just as well. Okay, so in an effort to, I guess, address this new testing accountability and different things, we really had to put a lot of different pieces in place. We've had target support teachers, and the one thing, as Brandon mentioned, in every campus improvement plan, we told our principals and asked them to do, is you're going to have to start thinking of every single child for what they need at that moment in time. Now, that sounds like a lofty goal because you're talking about some classes with 20 kids, some classes with 35 kids. But our teachers are having to meet every single child and grow them every step of the way, okay? And so all of these efforts mean that we have to just create a collaborative effort, so that's why we practice professional learning community. We adopted different instructional frameworks, which is NEISD, and different things like that. And so we really try to take the whole child and the whole approach to make sure our kids are growing on an annual basis. The last thing I'll mention that, as Brandon talked about CCMR component, I'll call it dead data. We're having to basically be accountable for something that happened the previous year and we can't do anything about it. The challenge there is just frustration, because we can come forward and say your CCMR data was 4, but after a year you forgot what you did to even get to that 4 level. So we're really having to be a little bit more strategic. We have increased our IPCs, we've increased our PSAT, SAT scores, and we're doing some things like that. But when you're thinking about strategic operations, you have to have intentional plans that are not based on timelines that keeps shifting day after day, month after month. And so right now, I use the phrase all the time, we're working on shifting sand sometimes. But one thing I just want to reassure everybody, I don't disagree with accountability. I think it is essential that we show growth and we hold ourselves accountable to some standards that help our kids reach success. But we just need to know the rules of engagement so we can participate and be successful with all of our students and not leave any kiddo behind. So I summarize this question, I think I hit everything. How do parents help? I think really is the awareness, knowing where your kiddo is, knowing how their progress is making, and encouraging them to set small goals for themselves and celebrate your kiddos as they're showing those baby steps towards success. I think everybody has to get engaged if these kids are going to hit the mark and have high success. This is not just a school issue, this is a community issue, it's an us issue. And so we just all got to keep pushing our kids to reach their fullest potential every single day during the school year and during the summer. What students can expect from their teachers, I think I said that is just teachers are really working hard to create individual plans and meet each individual child exactly where they are. So thank you.
All right, we had another question submitted, well, a couple. So the questions are, do charter schools and private schools follow the same accountability evaluation? And then how about homeschool students? So public charter schools do follow the same accountability system. All right, so they are accountable just like this as we are. Private schools do not. They do not have to follow the same accountability system. The reason is at this point in time, there are no public dollars going in there that's holding them accountable. Homeschool students, no, there's no, they are not subject there as well. So it's really public schools. Again, charter schools are public schools. They are public schools. They're not an ISD but they are public. Right? So, Mr. Jarrett, that would, I guess, conclude. But Mr. Jarrett, myself, Ms. Merriman, we will hang out afterwards if any of you have any other questions that you would like to ask. Off the video, we are taping this. This will be posted to our website. So if you wish to review it, you can. But again, thank you so much for coming this evening. I hope it helped. If you've not had a chance, I would encourage you to watch the 6-part series that Ms. Chancellor, myself, Ms. Caldwell put together. And then just make sure to spread this word, because I will tell you, in 29 years I've been in education, I've never seen anything like it. This is unusual in the sense that we're still waiting for results. And as Randy said, we don't really know when we're going to go. Nobody knows. This lawsuit is delaying some things, and we just have to see the outcome that comes up. So with that, have a wonderful holiday, have a Merry Christmas, and thank you for supporting the Northeast Independent School District. We appreciate it. Is there something I forgot?
Advanced service.
Oh, the exit survey. So if you will take a moment, you have your phone, you can shoot that QR code and fill out a brief survey. And if not, we have devices in the back that you can fill it out as well. So thank you.